That's the bit I can't quite get. But you know, then the second best job in the world is being a professor. And being a dean is somewhere way down there, is what he said. So explaining why he gave up being a dean to going back to be a professor. But being a professor, you get loads of control over your daily life. You get to interact with interesting people. You get to teach people. You get lots of, once you've got tenure, you get lots of positive experiences. It's an unusual. Surgeons, I think they have an interesting life. Me, I couldn't bear it. You know, sticking your hands in those people and whatever, that just strikes me as revolting. But I gather people think it's interesting and enjoy it. The inequality is socially constructed. I'll say a bit more about that later. But I think lots of us understand this. Education, investment in human capital development, essentially, is a gateway to these rewards, right? It controls access to these rewards, not completely, but very significantly. As I said, you know, Prince Charles, it just didn't matter. I'm kind of a fan of Prince Charles, I should say that, in case this goes on the web. And, you know, you never know how things might go. No, I genuinely am kind of a fan, but, you know, he didn't need any education to get where he is. But most of us do. And the distribution of education itself, again, broadly conceived, investment in human capital development is itself socially constructed. It's not natural that some people, if you think about school funding, I don't think school funding is the greatest proxy for quality, but you think about, we choose how much we invest in schooling. We choose how much we invest in some people's schooling relative to other people's schooling. So in the UK, in fact, the funding system is the US, we know the funding system is set up in such a way that if you live in a wealthy suburb and you have wealthy parents, a lot more money is going to be spent on your education than if you live in a maybe not in an urban area, but in a sort of middle class, lower middle class neighbourhood. A lot more will be spent, and not just by your parents, though that too, but by the government. That's a social choice. In the UK, it's the other way around. In the UK, the government spends about twice as much on poorer kids than it does on wealthier kids. It's just a social choice. That's just what I mean by socially constructed in this case. And just finally, we just think that it's unfair if the way the distribution of education is structured puts, sorry,